think it was what mom.
Hi. Um, so Miss Katie, I think when she sent the email, she let everyone know she's not feeling too good. So she's gonna stay off camera, but we're gonna wait and see how many other people join. My arts and crafts project's a whole mess back there. I keep seeing it. And then once we have, we'll kind of wait till like 5:30, and if we still see more people coming, we'll wait till like, okay, perfect. If we have more people joining us around 5:30, 5:33, we'll then start. So
Okay.
we will kind of wait and see. But did you fare well in the weather on Saturday?
Yes. Pretty good. Pretty good.
Good, 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 good.
Hear
Yeah.
me okay?
Hmm?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Good deal.
But yeah, that Saturday was whew. I left and went to my parents' house because I typically, if there's bad weather, I go to their house. I'm still there. I'm still their little girl who needs.
Yeah, the baby.
Well, see, what's funny is I'm the oldest, but because I'm the oldest and I'm like the firstborn, everything, like dad's already ready for like, okay, you can come over to the house, things like that. So I went and I
can't. You're the oldest, you're still the baby.
exactly.
My oldest is in Vietnam right now.
Oh wow.
So she wants to come home. She's going to come home for a visit in May.
Oh,
She called me bright and early that morning and said, Mother, how's it? She knows more about the weather than I do. She keeps up with me.
yeah, I was watching it and watching it. I was watching James Spann and everything. I mean, I was like, and my dad's the same way. And so we were watching it and just keeping an eye on it the whole day pretty much. So hi, I gotta fix my
Hi,
ponytail.
Meg.
My hair, I have a lot of it and it's always acting up. Every time I have to fix my hair, there's usually about 9 times. Oh wow, your hair's longer than mine.
It's down past my waist.
Wow, because mine's like about halfway. And so but what's funny is during like our classes, there was one time I typically put it up before the class starts, but there was one day I had it down and it was, I mean, down because it's long. And I don't think Miss Katie realized how long my hair was. And she was like, Jillian, how long is your hair? And I was like, it goes down to here. And she's like, because it's always been in like either like a bun or like a ponytail. And so no one could ever really see how long it is. And yeah, it's always kind of, I have to fix it because I try to leave it down. Yes. Yes, because even in the summer, I always like have it up when at my camp that I worked at with Miss Katie's daughters.
Yeah, I can't put mine up. It gives me a headache. I don't like my hair up.
See, mine will do that if I have it for too long.
Yeah.
But I typically don't have it up as much at school. I have it sometimes up if like I'm working, but it's more like a lazy one where it's like down here.
Yeah.
Um, I bring it up
Down
high.
where that. Yeah, down
Yeah.
here. Yeah.
This one can't do too long, or it does like I start to get like this headache, or it's like I feel like it's sore, like it's pulling too hard.
Pulling the hair. I know.
Yes. So I have to like kind of lower it. But the problem is when I sign at my camera, I move too much. That like my hair, I feel like I'm constantly doing this. So it's always like it's gotta go in the back. Gotta go in the back. Gotta do this, bun, something like that. Hi, everybody who just joined in. I don't know if everyone saw Miss Katie's email, but she is not feeling too great, so she's not going to be on camera. She's already set up the recording, so it's already started, went ahead with recording. I'm gonna say this now because I think we've got a good amount of people, and then if more join, I will add and mention it again. Because she is sick, she will not be able to send the video from tonight until about maybe Thursday. So please bear with her and with getting the video out to everyone. And the good news though is that once you have it, you have it. So
Yeah, that's good.
yes, let me fix this real quick before I go crazy. Okay. Oh, what in the world? Sorry, like I had like a little tab pull up and I was like, what are you saying to me right now? And I realized I was hovering over something. What we're gonna do tonight is we are going to continue our time signs. I'm gonna have to back this up again. I feel like again I'm too high up. Now let's see, maybe if I
Whoops.
that'd be better. But we're gonna start and continue with our time signs, and then afterwards we're gonna do our WH question words. Luckily there's not that many of those. They're kind of a limit of question words, but then we'll kind of go into more about how you would ask questions. I think we touched base a little bit on this when we talked about like saying what is your name and things like that, but we're going to kind of go over that again and then explain some more with how you would express. And we'll do that. And then I keep always adding a third one because I'm trying to think of what else. If we have time at the end, we may go ahead and start a little bit of the family signs. We'll see, depending on kind of what time we finish at. And if not, if we like don't have that much time left, what I'll do is then I'll leave it open and you guys can ask questions or need clarification, things like that. So that's kind of our plan for tonight. And yeah, let's go ahead and get started. If more people join, we'll catch them up, things like that. So let's see, gotta get my list here. Okay. The first time signs we're gonna do, I was gonna do learn and then I changed my mind. That happens a lot with ASL. Is like if I have like the English in my head, like I'm voicing it, but then I also have the other side of ASL that wants to express and sign it. They will conflict each other. And so that's why signing and talking at the same time is not the best method of communication. I don't know if I've mentioned that before. I think I talked a little bit. The sign is called SimCom, where you simultaneously communicate. And it's actually really, really hard because one language is going to take over, then the other is going to go down. So like right now, my English is really strong. I'm talking correct English, but my ASL may not be perfect. That's the kind of the concept. It's really interesting. I think it's fascinating to learn and see all about this. But we will not be going into a language discussion. This is not a language class per se of that. It is a learning language class. So, all right. The first sign we're going to do is the sign for time. And that one's very simple. It's time. Just tap in on the wrist. Time. Time. Our next one we're going to do is we're going to do seconds. Now, the thing with seconds is this one's a little bit not complicated. It's just it's not used very often. At least I've not been exposed to signing it often. And so the sign for second is going to be your non-dominant is sideways. Your dominant is in a pointer finger. Yes, Meg. Or I don't know if that's your mom's name or your name. I never know. So I wanted to check. Yes.
That's my mom's name, and also I was just trying to do the sign. I wasn't asking.
Oh. Sorry, I do that. If I see movement, I'm like, oh, what's up? What's up? What you got? I'm so bad about that.
Also, Miles is my name, by the way.
Miles. Okay. I'll never know. And so I'm always like, I'm going to double check on everybody before names because I'm like, there have been people I'm like, is that your name? No, that's not your name. Got it. Okay. Some people use their friends. Some people use their families. That's why I always have to check. So, okay. Anyway, so I was going to say, so the sign for time, the sign for second is your non-dominant is palm sideways. You do have it this way, but I'm going to turn it this way so you can see what I'm doing. Okay. You're going to have your pointer finger. You're going to put it on top right here and very smally go smally. Oh, that's not a word. Very small, like you're going to move it back and forth. Okay, very small. It is very subtle. That is seconds. You can also just finger spell SEC, like talking about like a few seconds, that sort of thing. Like I said, seconds is not really, I don't see that one used as often. Comparative, like, when we talk, we'll say like 1 second. In English, we say 1 second, 1 second, 1 second. More so in ASL, it's like 1 minute. Give me a minute, give me a minute. That's more, they use that one, I've seen more. So there's second. Then we have minute. Okay, minute has 2 ways. The first one, we're gonna have the same setup as second, but now it's minute. Minute. It's going back, it's a bigger movement. Minute, you can do just like 1 tap, like minute, like 1 minute. But like minutes, it's like back and forth. Okay, minutes or minute. The other one that I actually do see more often is going to be your dominant still in that pointer finger. Your non-dominant is now on a pointer finger, and you're poking the base of your dominant in a minute. Minute, minute, minute. And this one's kind of like used for more so like if you're saying like 5 minutes, like you have 5 minutes, or you need 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes. And the nice thing with that, like obviously, as you can tell, you can kind of replace the numbers right here. So instead of having to just do 5 minutes, which you could just do 5 minutes all in one, 5 minutes. Okay. Our next one is going to be hour. So we're going to pull up our non-dominant again. This is basically like the face of your clock. That's the best way to, like, that is what this is. Your pointer finger on top. Now you're going to go in a full circle. Hour, hour, hour. It does not matter too much if you go backwards or forwards. Some people may have a preference of being like, you talk like this is the correct way versus this. I don't think there's the biggest issue with that though. It's not like it's going to be the end of the world. So hour. This is another one you can also do the adding that number to it. So like 2 hours, 2 hours, 3 hours, 3 hours. You can add that. If it's big numbers, like you're talking about 300 hours or something, I would then do 300 hours, 300 hours. You don't have to sign that if you didn't want to. I just wanted to say when it gets to be more complicated, more signing numbers like 24 hours, I would not try to do 24. I would do 24 hours. Okay. The next one we have now is day. So day is going to have your non-dominant flat like this. Your dominant is going to be in this pointer finger, but also can kind of look like a D. I've seen kind of each way, pointer finger or just the D, either one. You're going to put it on top of your non-dominant hand, okay? And you're going to have it, it's hard to do, kind of facing. So you want to have there we go. And you're going to go down, day, day, day. And that usually, when you're signing it, it's not always so big and clunky. It kind of does come smoother when you're signing it. It's just hard through Zoom to be like, oh, come more comfortable. So I have to lift a little higher so you can see it. Day. Okay. We're going to do week, month, and year, and then we'll go back through all of those. Okay. I thought we'd just go ahead. So week is going to be non-dominant. Now palm up. Dominant's in a pointer finger. And you do want your, God, my chair keeps swiveling. I have a bad time if I move in my chair too much and it's turning me. And I think that it gets confusing where I'm angling myself. Your dominant palm up, you do want it kind of like sideways. Okay. You're going to have your pointer finger and you're going to slide across. Week. 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 And this one, again, you can also add that number to it. So 3 weeks, 4 weeks, however many weeks, you can add it right here. Week. Okay. Then we have month. Month is going to be, I like to say this one's probably one of the most hard ones to describe through Zoom because it is turning a lot of your wrist. So bear with me. Okay. have both your fingers on both your hands and a pointer finger. Gosh, I cannot talk. Pointer finger. You want your dominant to turn sideways. And then you're going to have your dominant go down the back of your non-dominant. Month. 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 That has gotten smoother every time. Every time I now start with this and I tell everyone the slow movement, it is so much better. Before it was like everyone would be like, I mean, we were starting to do like the finger dancing because they could not keep where their hands go. So I'm so happy when I see that it goes a lot smoother. So month. Okay. And again, numbers you can't add. 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. All right. Our last one, year. You're going to have 2 fists. You're going to put them on top of each other. Typically, you have your dominant on top. And then you're going to have your dominant go forward in a circle and come back. Year. 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 Now, if you were talking about 2 years or 3 years with this, the way that's kind of explained, besides, because this is just the basic year. If you did 1 year, it would count as that. But if I wanted to say 2 years, you could do the 2 years or 2 years. Like you tap it and then do your circle. 2 years. 2 years. Okay. Right. 2 years. Okay, let's now go back. So we had our sign for time, which was time. And I'm going to add this here real quick just because I keep catching myself to it. When you're typically signing, your elbows are not going to be out like this all the time. Okay, you're not going to be going time, minute, hour, like your elbow. I promise your elbows are not sticking up. You're not flapping like birds. Your elbows are more down and comfortable positioned. I just have to do it so you can see exactly where my hand's in, so you can see exactly what I'm doing. So if you actually needed a sign where your elbows did need to be out, I will tell you. I will emphasize that. But most of the time, you can rest more down and do time with your elbows down. You do not have to stick them out like this every time. I know I've said the word time like 1,000 times. I keep saying it over and over, and I'm like, ooh, okay. All right. So then after time, we had seconds. So remember, we had the face, pointer finger, and then seconds. Very tiny seconds. Seconds. It almost looks like you're not moving your hand. That's basically the best way it looks like, is you're not moving. Seconds. Then we had minutes. The first one we had was minutes. Minutes. And then the other one was minute. 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 So it's like the pointer finger. So your dominant and non-dominant are pointer fingers. Your non-dominant touches the base of your dominant. Minute. 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 Okay. Then we had hour. So again, same position. Hour. Hour. The helpful thing with this one is I do think about how an hour goes all the way around a clock, So that full circle motion means like you've gone all the way around. Hour. Okay. Then we had week. Palm up now. And one pointer finger slides across. Week. 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 You can do 1 week, or you could just do one week. Either way, they will work. Okay. Then we had month. So if you remember those pointer fingers, dominant turns sideways and brushes the back. Month. 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 Okay. And then year. 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 Good. Okay. How are we feeling on these time signs as of right now? Feeling good? Practice makes perfect. Did I see? I thought I caught someone turn unmute. I can't tell. If you have anything and I missed you, just put a message and we can come back to it too. So, okay. Now what we're going to move on to is we're going to move on to how you would describe kind of like yesterday, today, tomorrow, now. Those kind of 4 signs. All right. So the first one we're going to do is the sign for today. All right. So for today, you're going to have 2 Y's. You're going to turn them up and then you're going to bounce them today. Today. Typically it's 2 bounces today. If you bounced it more than twice, like you did it 3 times, it's not going to change the sign. It is still going to be today. You just need to make sure you do it more than once. That's all I was going to say. You have to make sure you bounce it at least twice today. Okay. The next one we're going to do is the sign for now. And now is going to be same position, Y's, all up, now. So now is the one time. Now. Now. I don't know why whenever like my best like visual connection with the now is like when you know like you're getting in trouble with your mom and they like call your full name and they say you come here now and it's like that final tone of like it better be coming. That's I don't know, that's how I feel every time I hear this or do the sign for now. I'm like now. I just hear that like it's final, like you got to come on one time, not saying it multiple times. Now. Now. Okay? The next one we're going to do is tomorrow. Now, actually, before I start this, I do need to explain some things real quick here. I realize I did not preface this, so I need to add this right now. When you are talking about anything that happens in the future or in the past, typically we add things to the words. ED, like finished with the ED at the end, or will finish. You know, we have that will at the front. And so that's always a big question that people ask is like, how does ASL translate that with English or English translate that to ASL? I knew I flipped them. And so you don't add anything per se to the wording itself, like adding ED. What you do is your position of your hands is going to show you're talking about something that happened in the past or in the future. With that, best thing I like to say is imagine yourself on a timeline. Like a literal timeline, okay? Right now, everything that has happened present right now is here, right with our bodies, okay? That's all in the same area with us. Anything that's happened in the past, like yesterday, last week, whichever, is behind us because we've already passed it. So anything that's going to talk about the past is going to come behind us, okay? It makes sense when we sign it, I promise, but I want to explain this now. Past. Anything that's going to happen in the future is going to be in front of us. We have not arrived there yet, but it's going to be in front of us. Okay? So just think about that visual of that timeline. It's going to help you so much more when you are learning how to say next week, last week, all of those. Okay? Now, back to our tomorrow. The sign for tomorrow is you have a thumbs up. You're going to put it at the corner of your mouth. And you're going to bring it forward. Tomorrow. 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 So you see how it added that motion of it going forward because it's not happening yet. It's in our future. Tomorrow. Tomorrow. Okay. Then our last one, yesterday. There are 2 ways you can sign yesterday. One is more ASL, one is a little bit more C, that signing exact English, which I think I've mentioned before. If not, we'll go into it later. If someone will mention it back so I can explain it later, I can do that. It's more where it's a little bit more English, basically, is the way way I'm wording it. So the first one for yesterday is you have that thumbs up again, corner of your mouth, and you're going to go back to your ear. Yesterday. 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 So do you see how I'm saying when I said like anything in the front is going to come forwards? Well, anything in the past comes back. It may not be a big back like all the way back here, but it is still going backwards, going back. Okay. The other sign for yesterday is a Y and doing the same thing. Yesterday. Yesterday. Sometimes with signs, there are certain signs that will mean a lot of the same thing, or they can be similar as others. And so what tends to happen is they will add the letter of the word to the sign, like yesterday, to just kind of help clarify what exactly you're talking about. It is a little bit more of that English base than it is that full ASL. But what's interesting is I still see a lot of people kind of go back and forth. It sometimes is a sort of preference per se, or what they grew up learning. So for what was interesting for me is when I first was learning, I learned yesterday. Never use that pinky. Now that I'm at school and I see tons of kids doing it, I now catch myself doing yesterday with the Y. And so it is just kind of like your region will kind of change your ways a bit. But both are still accepted as yesterday, obviously. It's just one is a little bit more English or one is ASL. Okay. Okay. Let's do those 4 again real quick. So we had today. Then we had now, one time, now. Tomorrow, tomorrow. And then yesterday, or yesterday. Okay. How are we feeling now? Feeling good? Understanding a little bit, more practice? Okay. All right. So now what we're going to do, after I took my sip of water, is we are going to do how you would say next week, last week, next month, last month, next year, last year. Okay. I saw your face. I promise you. It is not as complicated. It's very similar to what I said you do as you move your hand forward, you move your hand back. I promise. It is not going to be too complicated. Once you get down the fact that anything in the front is future, anything in the back is past. Once you know that, it helps a lot. Okay. The first one we're going to do is the sign for next week. Okay. Or actually, let's do last week first. Let's do last week. I'll explain why in a minute. So you're going to start again the same position we did with our week. You're still going to slide it across, but now you're going to point to the back. Last week. You go behind. Last week. So like I said, anything that's happened in the past, like last week, that's behind us. We're done with it. We can't go back to that. Last week. And this is one where you could also do that like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. You can add that number into the motion and to help kind of add the specifics. So, all right, next week. All right, what you're going to do for next week is you're going to do the same thing. Start here. You're going to go across and then curve forward. Next week. And it's kind of like you're almost making a C from the bottom up. Next week. Okay. Now, I do like to add here, though, one other way to do next week, which it is a more complicated way. This is more of exposure, not teaching per se of it. And the reason I do this is because I have a tendency to sign this when I'm talking in our class, and it can get confusing. Is another way to do next week is to have that palm up, start at the base of the fingers or the top of the fingers, go next week. So it's like you go across and then down. Don't worry, I'm exposure. Like I said, I'm exposing you that someone may sign it this way, and that is what it is. That someone will probably be me. I do it every time we leave, like every time at the end. You'll probably catch it now. But I do next week. And the reason again is being around kids, and they sign next week, and it's still next week. They both are the signs for next week. It's just kind of again that preference. And they'll flip. And I've caught myself changing from going next week to next week. Yeah, caught it. And I was really mad at myself. I was like, really? I didn't do that before. And I didn't realize when we were, when I would teach these classes. And then at the end of the class, I would say, I'll see you guys next Tuesday. And I would sign next Tuesday, next week. And I think it was like Miss Katie or someone like made like a face right as I said it. And she's like, I'm sorry. You just taught us next week. What is this? And I was like, oh, that's another way. So I always like to tell people, I'm like, I promise I'm not telling you the wrong signs when I say next week and then signing next week. It's just kind of, it's just that that different, like kind of differing ways. I mean, I remember thinking in Spanish the same way about like how you say the sentences, but then sometimes it can kind of change a bit. Same thing. So do not stress and have to try to memorize next week. Just know if you are good with this next week, good. It's just you may see some people do this, and that's next week as well. Okay. Our next one we're going to do is next month and last month. These are kind of awkward-ish. Really, next month is not too bad. It's last month that can be kind of an awkward one. So we're going to do last month first. I think that'll be easier to start with the complicated one. So I have our pointer fingers again. Gonna turn that hand, gonna go down for month again, but now you're gonna bring it back last month. And the reason I say this one is awkward is if you are too close to yourself, you will accidentally scratch yourself, especially if you got long nails. That can happen. So be very careful when you're doing last month. That is, what's interesting is that is actually called a deaf bang. And so what that is that's just things that'll happen is like almost like the joke of like only if you're deaf this would happen, or only when you're signing this happens. Kind of those jokes of like, only in the South do we have this and that. Same concept. And so it's always fun. I think there's one video we might have a link to, but it's so much fun to just see and watch because it's really interesting, especially if you're not familiar with it, like what happens and like simple mistakes. And so one of them is accidentally hurting yourself, like scratching yourself. I cannot tell you how many times I have scratched my chin because I was signing and I was really either excited or I was really like showing a lot of expression, and I just accidentally like scratched myself in the chin. I've done it in my cheeks. It's very easy. I've done it on my hands. And so that is a deaf bang, is when you kind of accidentally will sign or scratch yourself. It's really cool to watch that video. Like I said, I'll try to see if I can find it and then send it to Miss Katie if we don't have it already. Okay. So we had last month, next month. Next month is going to still go down and out. Next month. It's like you go all the way down, turn your pointer finger and point it out. Next month. Next month. Okay. Then we have last year and next year. Okay. What's nice with this is we don't have to do the full year sign right now. We just going to start with our fists on top. If you're talking about next year, you're going to tap and point a finger forward. Next year. Tap, swing forward. Tap, swing forward. Next year. 2 years, 3 years, whichever, adding on to that next year. Okay. Last year is going to go tap last year and point back last year, or 2 years ago. 2. Okay. So see, like I said, they're not that complicated. I promise. It's just knowing future and past. Okay. Let's go back through those 3 kind of chunks we did. Then we will move on to, let's see, I was trying to see what other ones. Oh, good morning, good night, and afternoon. We'll kind of add those to you. All right. So we had last week. Last week. Then we had next week. Then we had last month. So last month. And then next month. And make sure your non-dominant is sticking out this way. Like you want to have it turned There you go. Because see, if you think about it, you're bumping into this part of the hand every time. So you want to have that smooth back. Next month. And then we had next year, tap forward, next year. And then last year. Okay. How are we feeling on that? I know it's a lot, and yeah, I know. Like I said, I think we said in the beginning, the classes get a little bit more content heavy. There's just a lot of information, but you do get these videos and you have access to them even after the class is done. I like to think of these as like resource videos. So you can go back and check the video, look at the title. Oh, it's time. I want to kind of review those again. And you can kind of watch them again to help you practice. And so kind of that like self practice as well. Okay. So with that, I want us to do morning, afternoon, and night. Okay. And then I'll tell you how to say good morning, good afternoon, good night. All right. So the first one for morning is you're going to have your non-dominant kind of palm out like this. Your dominant is going to come right here. I mean, not dominant, non-dominant. Sorry. Your dominant is going to come on top, and you're going to bring your hand up. Morning. Okay. Morning. Yes. All right. For afternoon, you're going to start kind of like how we did our day, that same sort of position. But now you're going to have your hand bent, kind of like, let me see if I can lower myself down a bit. Bent, and you're going to go afternoon. Okay, afternoon. It almost looks like you're doing like walk like an Egyptian. Okay, if like walk like that, it's like that. It's very much like that, afternoon. And the reason is because for this, you're visually almost looking at like where the sun is placed. So like this is why morning is like this, because it's like the sun is coming up, while on the afternoon, the sun is kind of in that middle range. Like if you're looking at it, this is the ground. The sun is like kind of right here. It's not set yet, but it's kind of going towards it, afternoon. Okay. And then our last one, night. You have your non-dominant as a fist, and you put your hand on top of it. Night. Okay. So, I did want to add this. Don't bring it in, which I know I didn't tell you to do that. So you're like, I know, Jillian, you didn't say to bring it in, but I like to add it here because when you add it and bring it in, this is English. So you want to make sure your night is just here. It's just covering, that's it. And then English. They are different. So if you wanted to say good morning, good night, good afternoon, all you're going to do is add the sign for good, which I know y'all don't know, so I'm going to teach you it now. You're going to have your non-dominant palm up again. Your dominant is going to come to your chin like this, and you're going to go good. 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 I'm sure if any of y'all have seen very basic sign or just a little bit maybe kind of caught here and there, the sign for thank you is also around there. It's thank you without that hand. So thank you. Good. So that's the difference. If someone were to ask me, I wanted to say good is you hit your hand. Good. If you wanted to say bad, because they're right here, bad is going to start the same, but then you're going to turn it down. Bad. So if you wanted to tell someone how your day was and you really wanted to tell them that it was a bad morning, you could say bad morning. Like it was a bad morning. Bad. So to say good morning, you would go good morning. Good morning. Okay. So good morning. Yes. And I know I'll get called on this, so I'm gonna do it because Miss Katie catches me every time. I was like, tell them how you actually sign it. And the reason she says that is because there is a shorter version you can sign. it's obviously this is the professional good morning, professional proper way, but there is kind of like that shorthand, which is you start here and you go good morning. Good morning. So you kind of, it's like you're doing the good and then morning without this hand. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. And I always tell the story when I talk about this is I remember on my first day of internship, I had arrived to campus and I'm walking around, I'm nervous. And one of my biggest goals was I was completely voice off. I was signing all day. I mean, all day long. And I was like, that's how I'm going to fully immerse myself. That's how I'm going to pick up everything. It's going to be great. And I will never forget, I was walking to the building and I kept seeing all these different, staff members and people working. And I wanted to be polite because I was like, I'm an intern. I want to be nice and, I make a good, have a good first impression. So every time I saw anybody, I wanted to say good morning. And I would go, good morning, good morning, good morning to everyone. And there was one day, which fine, everyone's saying good morning back. It's good. Until one day I had math textbooks in my hand that I was bringing to go home or bringing to come to school or whatnot. And my hands were full. And I saw someone and I was like, I have to say good morning. I have to be polite. I cannot stand the thought of not. And I remember trying to go like with the textbooks here, just like going good more. I mean, it was the most awkward way possible because I was like, I have to get the good here. And they went, good morning. And I was like, wait, I don't have to go this like with awkward hands full and everything. I could just do this, good morning. And that was when I remember kind of going, oh, and I even asked my teacher I was working with, I was like, can you say just good morning? Like, you don't have to go good morning. She's like, no, just good morning. I was like, oh my gosh, I've been stressing on how to hold things and say good morning at the same time. And it was all this. And so I always love to just tell people I would recommend starting with good morning, that professional, big, nice. But if your hands are full, you could just still do good morning. that little hand right here, good morning, will work too. Okay. So with that, we had our good afternoon. So good afternoon is good afternoon. Good afternoon. I have not seen that one shorthand. I mean, you probably could do good afternoon, but it could get kind of confusing. I still do good afternoon. All right, and then good night. Good night. So good night. Good night. And there's no shorthand for this one because it's all right in here. Good night. Wait, if you're asking a question, unmute yourself. I can see her mouth moving and I was like, I think she's talking. I can't tell. Okay, we'll go ahead. Okay. All right, so good night, good morning, good afternoon. Okay. Do you guys have any questions related to those time signs? Okay. I was trying to check everybody. Okay. All right, good. If you have any later, you can more than welcome add them in the chat or raise your hand. I will try not to, every time I see your hand move, catch you and go, oh, is this, do you have a question? Because I know I'm going to probably do that. But I'm going to try to be better about it. Okay. So let's now real quick move on to some WH question words. How to close my eyes and think for it. That's what happens when your brain's kind of going cuckoo with it. All right. With that, we're going to start with our who, because we have the 5 WH question words, the typical ones. And then there's a few I've added that aren't WH, but they are still question words. Okay. So the first one, who, that we did when no, we didn't do that. We did what? That was the first one we did. Well, I'm over here like, oh yeah, y'all know who. And I'm like, no, y'all actually don't. Y'all are sitting here going, Jillian, you crazy. So we'll do what first then? We'll do the what because we know that. Okay. And if you remember, when you're asking a WH question word, your eyebrows need to go down. And that is not to say you're showing like you're angry. It is how you help express to the person you're talking to that you have a question. Okay. So we have what, what, Then we have who. Who is going to be this L. You're going to put your thumb on top of on your chin, and you're going to go who. Who. You can bend it who or go across who. So who or who. Who. I go back and forth. Do who? Yeah, who. Who. What's really interesting with this one is that I've actually seen that, typically you try to keep your mouth closed when you're signing. You don't want to be doing da 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 like that. Talk, especially if you're talking the English words. I do have a bad habit of that sometimes. You kind of want to, like, if you're expressing, yes, move your mouth. But if it's like the English words, you don't really want to be voicing or whispering the words. But what I always think is interesting is almost every time I see anyone sign who, they always have the little ooh shape. Even if they are profoundly deaf, they cannot hear a thing. They have a deaf family, everything. Everyone still goes who with that little who look who. And I just think it's fascinating. I think it's cool. Your dog went flying. I went, wow, that just mine did it too. That's why I knew exactly what was going on. So who. Then our next one is going to be when. Oh,
Yeah, I have a question.
yes.
So, what should I do if I accidentally misspell a word?
Oh, that's a good one. Okay. If you misspell something, typically you don't have to make a big hurrah about it. You could say again, this is time for again or repeat. This is your best friend. I will say this, when you're learning and you're talking to someone and you're still like kind of learning, you can be like, can you repeat that again? Because it is also really important when you are talking to someone. Do not do what we do when we're talking to people and we kind of tune them out. We kind of just nod our head along like, yeah. Even though I'm like, I don't agree. I have no idea what you're talking about. Do not do that when you were talking in ASL. And the reason I say that is because you could accidentally commit to doing something like volunteering for things. I promise you, it's happened. One of my teachers had that happen to her. So she's always like, don't do it. And then also if they know you're not listening, they're going to trick you. Okay. I've also watched that happen before. Like I literally was watching a conversation and I watched them talking and it was someone who was learning ASL. So they were still kind of slow and picking up and they were signing blah, 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 blah. And then it was a student, that I saw, and then they suddenly changed it. They changed what they were saying. And I was like, and it was like saying, oh yeah, and so dragons live in the forest because of blah blah blah. Like they twisted it like that. And this poor hearing person's just like, yeah, like nodding along. And I just kind of jumped in and I said, do dragons live in the forest? And they were like, what? No, there's no dragons aren't real. And I said, yeah, they were telling you that and you just nodded. And they're like, no, yeah, they will do that. So it is best to be honest and being like, I missed that. Can you repeat? Like be like, I'm sorry again. And most of the time, most people are very willing to repeat or slow down. So repeat. You can do like if you're finger spelling something, like let's say I was finger spelling Jillian and I spelled it wrong. Like I went, I'd be like, ooh, again, and then I would spell it again. And if you are finger spelling and your hands keep making mistakes, best thing to do, hold that hand and finger spell. I know that sounds crazy, but it's almost like you're having that better control because I have to do that. If I'm finger spelling, like when we were doing like anesthesiologist, I kept finger spelling. My fingers wanted to do the next letters. So I had to like grip my hand and be like, no, it's this. Or like when we've finger spelled a couple of different words. I'm trying to think of one. Like for the word kangaroo, I would go like kangaroo. It was like I had better control gripping it. That helps. I know that's crazy. You're like, I'm just holding my hand. It helps to control it better. I promise you. So, but yes, that's how you can kind of spell if you make a mistake. Okay. Good question. Actually, I don't think anyone's ever asked me that before. So that's why I was like, oh, it wasn't like how would I do it? It was more of oh, we've never ever talked about that before. So interesting. All right. We had our what, who, we're going to do when. When is going to be 2 pointer fingers. You're going to have them together, and you're going to have your dominant pointer finger go in a circle motion, typically going forward and back. When. And again, that eyebrow is going down like, when is it? When's the event? When do we have work? When do we have school? When's the meeting? When. Excuse me. When. Okay. Our next one is where. Where is going to be a pointer finger. You're going to have it slightly bent. You're not going full X. You're just slightly bent. You're going to turn it back this way and go where. Okay, where. And then our final one is why. Why has a few different ways you can sign it. Again, more so I know. I saw you like, really? It is all kind of like on preference again. They just kind of vary. Some are a little bit more that English that I was talking about earlier, and some are just kind of shortening them. Okay. I've seen all 3 used. I see them often. They kind of vary. Sometimes I change the way I'm talking with them. So the first one we're going to do is just the more like fancy formal Y. And you're going to start with your dominant hand, kind of this bent shape. And you're going to tap your head like this. You don't really tap it. You just kind of tap it once. This is also the sign for no, like I know. So like that's kind of where that comes in. So you're going to go no, and then you're going to pull your hand into a Y shape. Okay. So it's like you pull the 3 fingers down. Y. So you keep, my pinky always wants to stick up for this. So it's bent hand. All 3 of your fingers go down except your pinky. Okay. Y. I'm going to turn it sideways so you can see. Y. You don't want to turn your hand like this. And the reason you don't want to is because don't know is right here where you turn it out. So you want to go Y, like you're pulling and going down. Y. You just can't see me do it easily because you can't see what my hand is when I do it this way. So Y. So make sure you keep that hand that same position. Y. Okay. The next one is same motion, but now it's just your middle finger. You touch and pull it back. Y. And it's only my middle finger going down. Y. Y. And then the final one, Y, is, ow, my hands. Whenever I overemphasize my fingers, they kind of hurt sometimes. The next one is just, you're going to sit here and that middle finger again, and you're going to bounce it. Y. So obviously you can tell this is the shorthand one. You don't have to move your arm all the way back. It's just Y. Okay. So you have the full on Y. The one with the middle finger, tap Y. And then the shorthand, Y. And I think a lot of times that does kind of, they are used kind of depending on the conversations you're having. Like I see this one will be used more when we're like having kind of that social conversation of like someone's at like, we're chatting and I'm like, well, you went here. Why? Or you did this. Why? But if I was having like a professional meeting, I probably would do why, or why, because it's a little bit more formal. That's just kind of how it varies with ASL kind of. That's like what I typically see it as, especially for the whys more so. Okay, let's go back and do our 5 WH question words. Then we'll do the like last few question words. And then I'll kind of leave it open for any questions you guys actually have. Okay. So we had our what, our who, our when, our where, bent finger slightly, not fully, where, and our why. Why. Or why. Or why. Whichever one you're most comfortable with, go for it. I promise. Like, it's not gonna, there's not gonna be a test that's gonna say, name and sign all 3 ways you can sign the word why. There's not gonna be that. I typically say, whichever one you feel most comfortable with, go for it. Okay. So the next ones I wanted to do are how, and how you would do how much or like how many. Okay. So for how is you're gonna have 2 thumbs up, put them together, and your dominant is gonna go how. How. Now, sometimes if you're assigning a specific thing, it may just be one how. How. You can do the one hand motion, how. But you can also do the tapping, how. Now, if you remember when we talked about what is your name, I told you your WH question words go at the end of your sentence. So if you're saying your name, like what is your name, you would go your name, what? Your name, what? How, like if you were going to ask, how are you? This is one of those times where how does come first. And the reason for that is because it blends together with the how are, like, how are you? So it's how are you? How are you? How you? How you? How you? And it goes a lot faster and smoother as how are you? How are you? How are you? How are you? If your hands are, you're feeling like, oh, that's jumbling. I know. Trust me, it takes practice. It does. I promise. But then it gets kind of, like I said, that smooth motion where you just catch your fingers already kind of forming that position. How are you? How are you? How are you? Okay. Now, my last one I was going to do was the how much or how many. If you were going to talk about how much or how many, you were going to technically, you're basically doing the sign for many, but you're adding the eyebrows down, which helps tell that you're asking how much or how many or how many. I keep flipping that. So the sign for many is you have like 2 S's. They're kind of palm up and you go many, 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 many. So for how much or how many, you go how much, how much, how many? Like how many do you need? Like need how many? How many? Okay. And the reason I keep flipping with the how much or how many is like if we do flip those, like how many cookies. Wow, I signed chocolate or church and not that. I did everything wrong on that. Sorry guys, I told you English, ASL, they're just kind of conflicting with each other right now. How many cookies? Like, and we will be doing food later, I promise. We will go back to those. But like if you wanted to say how many cookies or how much cookies, that is, or how much like books, how much, that sort of thing. Money wise, if you're talking about how much money, I would typically be like, that book, how much? Like I would do how, like book, sign money first. Money, how much? Okay. What questions do you guys have right now? Are there any questions you guys have? They don't necessarily have to be only on time, anything like that.
I have one.
Yes.
So I think last time you mentioned, I think video link to one talking about color. Were we supposed to watch that?
No, that is not like you have to watch it like homework. No, that's just a video provided for you that you can watch whenever you want. And the reason we do it is, I'm sorry, my nose is so itchy. I feel like I keep grabbing my nose this whole time. It's like tickling and like itchy. The colors video, the reason we did that is because colors, when you are doing when you're talking about any kind of color, for example, it's just the basics. There's not really a new sign for the words like sky blue and vermilion and, all of the fancy different versions of colors, magenta, things like that. Typically, you just say the color, like you just sign the color. If you were talking about it being like magenta or stuff like that, you would have to finger spell them. So, That's why the colors video is it's just a nice little shorter video you can do because it's only like the 12, 13. I can't remember how many of the colors of them. It's just it's got a set number. And so instead of having to do that in class, we just provided it kind of outside wise because colors do come back, but they come back when we're talking about like animals. But that's not next week's for sure. It might be 2 or 3 weeks. Sometimes we flip-flop our classes, which we have first, and so it won't be until later. And even then, if we're talking about colors, I typically will show them when I'm talking about specific animals with their colors. And if you were like, well, how would you sign this? Like, I will still tell you the sign for the color of like blue or whatnot. I'm not going to be like, you didn't watch the video. I'm not telling you the color sign. No, that's not like how this is going. So it is just an optional, like kind of extra help sign video. Golly. Sorry, guys. Spring break for me is next week. I'm so excited. You can tell my brain is just like, I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm so ready. So I feel like I've been like, every time I talk, I'm like, okay, my mouth cannot even get these words out correctly anymore. But yeah. Any other questions you guys have? Anything you're curious of? Oh, or any words you can think of related with time, or maybe how you would sign question words that you're curious of. Y'all are such a quiet little group. I typically this time I'll have, okay, perfect, yes.
So I work as a nurse, and I'm wondering how you start off with like, do you need, or like, and then you can like fill in the blank with whatever else. But like, do you need is a common question I ask.
So if you were to ask someone, let's say do you need water? Do you need some water? Do you need a glass of water? Something like simple like that. We'll do that first. What you're going to do is you're going to sign the word of the object you were asking about first. So you would do like water, which is a W, and you point to the corner of your mouth with the point, like your pointer finger taps it, water, water. And then what you do is you go, you need, and need is like a bent X again, and you tap it, need. So you would go water, you need, and you can't even do, if you're looking at them already making a conversation, you could just do water, need. Now, that is a good point. I'm glad you actually brought that up because I think we talked about it a little bit, but I'm going to explain this one again. When you're asking a yes or no question, which is what would go with saying, like, do you need water? Your eyebrows need to go up, okay? We are not trying to make them go all the way to our hairlines, but we do want them up. That is how you tell people you are having a yes or no question. It does help kind of solve whatever kinds of questions you're asking because it already tells them, okay, she's looking for a yes or no. She's not looking for a name. She's not looking for blah, 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 blah. She's looking for a yes or no response. So that's why if you notice when I said water, need, and I kept bringing those eyebrows up, I'm not just being crazy. I promise there's a reason. Water, need. Okay. And that's something you can do. Like if you're saying, like food, you need food, need, TV remote, like you could, basically you could do TV, clicker, need, that sort of thing. I'm trying to think of different ones you could use as a nurse, different little sentences like that.
I know this is like a very specific question, but I have a patient that I've been working with that has like a tracheostomy. And so something I ask very often is like, do you need suction? And I'm like trying to figure out how to communicate with him better, being that he can't communicate with his trach tube. So this is kind of like.
I literally, and I'm sure Miss Katie's honestly probably gonna love this when she goes back and sees this, if she had to walk away, because we love these really specific questions because it makes me think of how I would communicate that, and I love it. I have so much fun with it. I would honestly, because there's so many different ways you can do it. It's the same way as so many different ways you can ask that same question, you know? I think the best way I would do it is probably say, I would point to this and go clean like this, need, or like cleaning where it's like two little fists, like kind of scrubbing. And the reason I would do that is because when you're like, the section is to clean it out. It's stuck, it's full. I mean, you could also say you're full, where it's, I know I just threw a bunch of random things at that right there. I even caught it. I went, oh, I did my little squiggly. This is my question asking, my little question mark. Because question mark is you literally make the shape of a question mark. You could just kind of start with the curve and then add the little dot. But you can do like this, where it's like, I'm asking questions. It's my favorite sign. Okay. I probably use that one 90% of my day. Because if I'm like, I need anything, I'll be like, paper. Like I'll be like, paper, can you give me some? Like, I do that all the time. I'm always just like squiggle, squiggle, squiggle. And that's why I didn't say anything when I signed it. But so because I think I would probably be like this, like it's cool, you need, clean, like need, that sort of thing. I'm trying to think. But my best thing would probably be, and after a while, you can be able to shorten it with them if you are able to tell him, like you point to it and then be like, need. He may immediately get, oh, she's talking about if I need to clean. Oh, have fun at the softball game. Good night. I could not talk. I was trying to say good night and I just was like, oh my gosh, softball. But yeah, so I would just do like point and then kind of be like need. And maybe once you like teach him, that's what you mean, it'll make a much smoother process. And it'll be so fast. You'll have so much fun. You won't even have to say anything. Okay. All right. Is there any final questions before we go? Okay. So with that being said, we will be, I think next week is going to be family signs. There's something else that we always add there, and I'm trying to remember what our other thing is. If not, you'll probably, when Miss Katie emails, she'll probably add that there. I'm trying to remember what that week, what our 4th week is. Typically it's family and something else I cannot think of at the moment. But if you have any questions that you think of during the week, you're more than welcome to email her or save them for next week. And just kind of ask away. You can ask similar questions like that where like they may be very specific to you and geared towards you. Please ask me. I will happily help explain or kind of show how you would sign this. I love things like that. I think it's always fun and cool to see because as a teacher, I'm only thinking of what signs like all the topics that are related to what like with school stuff. So I love that outside like nurse and the fields of like medical and science. I love having those so I can have my brain think on it too. So, but I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of y'all's week. And I will see you guys all next Tuesday. Bye, guys.